Good afternoon, folks. Good afternoon. So, just going to do weekly outlook for pound yen. Sort of just break down what I want to see, what occurred last week, and just we're sort of stuck in an area where we were 2 weeks ago, and sort of what you can see on the screen here with this bullish candle is literally how the week closed, leading into the week commencing the 12th of um of June, and basically my analysis then is kind of the exact same. What I was looking to do was I was looking for daily candles to close above this support. Um, and if we can remain above that support, or at least respect the support zone, then we could look to continue up. Essentially, what I'm seeing is we sort of have this. Um, I don't know why that's went black. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, just like this. So I'll just copy this. So essentially what I'm seeing on the monthly is this is the most recent support and resistance zone. Looking left, the price is moving into. So as we come up on March, we reacted off that. We come up in April, we reacted off that. Again, May, we had reaction at the bottom of the zone. And now in June, we're sort of pushing into the zone. Okay, now this monthly candle hasn't closed yet, so of course there is um another week remaining, so there is every chance that next week, or sorry, this week coming, could be bearish, and we could actually close outside of the zone, below the zone. So what that would be is that would be 3 months then where we've actually failed to climb any sort of higher. Now overall, price is still bullish. Okay, so just because we can't close within the zone or above the zone doesn't mean that automatically, we're going to be bearish on the pair or anything like that. But the reason why I'm highlighting this is because in terms of when I look at zones, what I want to see is closures inside zones. Then I want to see either the support respected to continue up to test the opposite end of the zone, and the opposite if we're looking at a resistance or pushing down in the market. So what I was looking for on the 12th of June was candles to close, daily candles closing above the support, and then I would like to see that support held, um and then we could continue up. So essentially what I wanted to see was this: do we then come down and maybe respect the actual support, um the closure, the body, and then continue? Or could we come deeper and respect the support, like the zone, like the lowest point of the zone, and then continue up? That was my idea. And if we just kind of look and see what actually happened then, leading into um that weekly candle. So if I just go to the daily, because if I go to the monthly and we look at where we were here, so this is obviously the start of June. So if we go to the daily, this is the highest point we have been able to reach in June. Okay, so far. So if we look at the daily, what I wanted to happen occurred, in a sense that we look back to April, we couldn't actually close above, and we rejected. So we did close above, right? So we formed a higher high, right? So what, again, I'm just referring back to what I wanted to see. I would have wanted to see either the support zone hold, continue, or the support, or the bottom of the support holding. So we came deeper, but in terms of structure on this time frame, we came to a previous level of structure, in that this is most recent support and resistance on the way up. We have then broken out with this candle, and we have pulled back to where the most recent structure was from the breakout. Yes, you can say you've levels here, levels here, levels here, and so on. But in terms of what's most recent and where price came from, this is the most recent level of structure. Okay, so we then formed a higher support. We then pushed up, and we failed to test the high before we have now sort of reacted again at the top of the zone, right? The support, the body. So we've pushed up, we've reacted there, we've pulled down, we've formed a higher support. So at the moment, what I want to see is obviously, does this support hold? You know, do we open tomorrow? And can we respect the support? If we're able to respect the support, excuse me, can we maybe have some form of bullish candle? Maybe something like this, for example, and that would be a confirmed support. So, because one candle doesn't mean anything, we could just have a bearish candle tomorrow, and that would be sort of a change in structure on the daily. But because we're sort of forming higher supports as we go, can this be respected, and then can this be the start of the move into the zone? Just as much as we come up here and tested the zone here, we got a deep pullback to a previous level of structure. Then we have continued up, and then we have pulled back. And where would we pull back to? On the daily, there's no sort of breakout here, but if we go to the 4-hour time frame, we have pulled back to a previous level of structure. So kind of like how the daily's broken out from this structure and pulled back to this structure. If I go to the 4-hour, kind of like the exact same things happened in terms of where we have our structure, and this would be the most recent support and resistance. And what have we done? Price has pulled back. Sorry, apologies, we've broken out, formed a new high, we've pulled back. I was expecting, is this potentially the area where we would get the push, because this wick has pulled back to the previous breakout. But what price has done is it's actually pulled back a little bit deeper. So it has. But what have we done? We have still respected structure support. So, and now we're moving out of the zone. Okay. Now, this to me looks a little bit more of a range. I could potentially see a range forming here, just based on how candles are forming, where we're getting sort of supports and resistances reacting off these areas. However, what I would like to see, of course, is I want to see this support respected. And again, I just remove bronze a second. Let me just go to the daily. This support zone is this 4-hour support. Okay, so ultimately, this is the most recent level of structure, and this is what I'm paying attention to. Okay, so if I'm looking at the most recent support prior to this zone creation, to me, that is going to be this area. Okay, so if we have candles closing below the zone, any sort of pullbacks, lower resistance is formed, that could be further downside to potentially this area, based on most recent structure, and what I can see left. Because essentially what we're doing is we're doing this, however we're coming from this. So within your sort of pullbacks, or sorry, pullbacks, continuations, you're going to have support and resistances within like extensions, things like that. That probably wasn't explained well there, but what I sort of mean is, as we're doing this in the market, within these legs, we are going to have these types of moves on the way up. So as much as these look like potential change in structures and breakouts and things like that, ultimately it could just be, for example, a deeper pullback for the overall continuation, because on the higher time frame we are bullish. So what I would prefer to see, of course, is closures above on higher time frames, hold, being able to form supports and higher supports leave that zone. And if I'm getting that on the daily time frame, for example, so if I just obviously, or if I go back to the daily time frame, yeah. So essentially, you might be saying, well, look, we keep reacting off this resistance, right? This is obviously a strong area and so on. We can't seem to be able to push through, right? But at the same time, we're not going down. We're actually forming higher supports. So to me, this just looks like a higher support creation for further continuation, and I believe we will continue up, and we will break. It's just a matter of when, and ultimately, we need structure to change on the daily, um, for us to say that we're definitely going down. And to be honest, if I just go to the daily here, um, because this is the most recent. Let me just actually have a look at that. That wouldn't be the most recent. This would be the most recent daily support. So if I'm like looking for shorts, right? If I'm saying to myself, well, do you know what? If we're getting signs that we're not going up, we're not going up. Where would make sense to potentially sell from? Okay, and if I'm looking at potential sells, what I would want to say as well, because we actually formed a support, is here. If we have a candle which closes below, which is bearish, that would be to me a change in structure on the daily, in a sense that we have done this, and we've done this. And if we close below here, that means we would be closing below that 4 hour structure, which I just mentioned previously, which is these levels. So if we can close below here, any sort of pullbacks in, we would be able to target the target. Okay, that would be sort of short and ideas. If we do look at the bigger picture, where realistically makes sense to sell from, well, you're looking way down in these areas, which is hundreds and hundreds of pips away. So for me, we're just really bullish. I don't really like the idea of long-term sales and things like that. And until like structure is broken, to the downside, um, the bias is always going to be bullish. But in terms of the weekly, we have what I was kind of looking at here was, is this pattern? I'm gonna look at patterns, candles, what have we done recently? And I was thinking, is this what we have here? Potentially this. In that we have had a bullish candle. Let me just see here. Bullish candle, bearish candle. This candle forms a higher support, and then we get continuation. So again, bullish candle, pause in the market, higher support because we close above resistance. Are we going to get the continuation in the next candle? Okay. So there's no reason why next week doesn't open and we continue bullish. We're bullish on the overall higher time frames. We're bullish on the weekly. We've closed above resistance. We've obviously rejected bottom end of the monthly support zone. We're moving up in the market. On the daily time frame, we have formed a higher support. If we are looking at potential triangles, things like that, this would be our support. And what we would be looking to do is buy and target here. If we target here and this is actually met, and say for example, this is what we have here. Say we open, you have a bullish candle, bullish candle, bullish candle, and we actually meet this, right? What's that going to look like on the weekly? Well, that's going to look like a bullish weekly candle, which is filling the potentially filling the high of the not last week's weekly candle, the candle before, because we would have already met last week's high. And what would that be as well? Buys from here would be any sort of continuation, and that would be on the monthly. On the monthly, that would be us pushing into our zone. This would be our continuation. So if we kind of look at this as, just for example, if we imagine this as our trading time frame and this was our 30-minute, we'd be looking for closures inside, pullbacks, doing this continuation, right? So what we're actually doing within this candle on the daily and on the 4 hour is we're already forming our higher supports in here. So if we can come up to here, we could get that continuation potentially. So obviously the 4 hour and the daily and so on is going to make up the weekly and that sort of thing. So ultimately, I'm not looking for shorts whatsoever. Really, I'm very much bullish with my bias. My sort of idea is the same as what it was 2 weeks ago. What we just done last week was the retracement was just a little bit deeper than what I would have expected. However, when we close below this zone, which is the support zone, when we close below that, we didn't use this as potential lower resistance to continue down. We just basically close back inside. So to me, that doesn't show any sort of form of rejection that we do want to go down or the price is going to go down. What I just want to see is I want to see daily supports that were formed on Friday respected. If we do, if I just go to the daily time frame again, could we maybe get something like this as well? Bear with me. Apologies there, the dog was just going a bit mental. But yeah, where was I? So daily's formed a support. I'm looking for that support to hold. Can we form higher supports in terms of we've formed a support here, we've closed outside this range on the 1 hour here. Now we're holding support above and we continue. And what if on daily we actually form a bearish candle? So if we have a, let me just draw that again. If we have a bearish candle which closes below, does that mean shorts? Not necessarily, because if we do close below the range, this is then going to be a target. This will be a target for any pullbacks in. If we form a lower resistance, we could look to target the target. However, this could just be a deeper retracement or further upside, exactly like how this was. We closed outside of structure. Everyone's in here thinking, oh, we're going to sell, we're going to go down, we're rejecting this. Then we just form a support and we continue. So because we have formed a new high in terms of relative to this support, it's not a higher high. Is this just a deeper retracement to then do this? Or is this just going to be our new range that we play within and we just play about in here until we get a breakout to the upside or the downside? So very much bullish. Just because I get one bearish candle doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be looking for sells. I will be looking for structure within that candle, how we're forming areas, what the session is any sort of closures down this way, potential opportunities to buy in line with this. So very much paying attention to the structure, this 4 hour structure here, 164,500, basically where I'm paying quite a lot of attention to, because if we do pull back and we fail to break down here and we show signs of rejection, this is going to be an opportunity to buy and hold potentially for longer term in anticipation of maybe getting breaks into this. Ultimately, if we get the next week that closes bullish and we see a bearish or a bullish candle, a bullish monthly candle which say fills the previous week's wick, we close inside, then for me that's very much what I want to see, because we've already had chances within here with the pullbacks to form lower resistances to actually reject this zone and continue, but the fact that we weren't able to do so, and the fact that every time within here all we kept doing was forming higher supports and higher supports, and then eventually we've now broken into this zone. If we can close in this zone, then I don't see any reason why we can't tap into the top end of this. Obviously, there's going to be an area in here, which is where this monthly closed and opened. That's going to be important on the lower time frames. But just looking at this from a structural perspective, all I'm seeing is if we close in here and we can respect previous support and the previous support zone, then we should be good to continue. So very much the same as my weekly outlook from the 12th of June. I'm just looking for higher support structure to hold and continue. But of course, if we don't, it just doesn't necessarily mean sell straight away. So thank you very much.